Friends, colleagues, and listeners, here we are, the EVA podcast, and we've got two gentlemen who are going to be talking about a subject that I've got great interest in anyhow, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners will do. The gentleman I'm talking about is Lars Alderutz, who's the CEO of Fogmaker International, and Nicholas Bjornvik, who's the key account manager, equally of Fogmaker. So, gents, lovely to have you on board. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
But seriously, it's our pleasure. Sorry, Nicholas, I've just got to look over your right shoulder there. Is that an Arsenal shirt?
It is, isn't it wonderful?
Hey, you should have told me that before we invited you on.
Ah. I'm attempting you're not an Arsenal supporter then?
No, well, I've got to be careful what I say on here, but I'd say no, Brentford.
Brentford.
Yeah, but never mind, it takes all sorts. So it's lovely to have you on board again. And you're based in Sweden, in a place called Vaxjö.
Yeah.
And Sweden has a soft spot in my heart because I lived in Sigtuna for 2 years. So loved it. Great country. Not sure about the weather, but there we go.
Maybe not the best.
Yeah, no. But gents, Lars, like to start with you, sir. Okay,
Yes.
so if you can give us a little bit of a background about the company, and obviously as the CEO, how proud you are, and also a little bit about some of the products that you've got.
Yes. So Fogmaker International, as you mentioned, Swedish based in south of Sweden. We are producing and manufacturing, of course, fire suppression systems for machines and vehicles. And we have done that since 1995. So we have almost 30 years in the business. We are 100 employees. We produce around 40,000 systems per year. Our main segments today is, of course, bus and coaches.
Yeah.
We are a market leader in Europe, and that is, the bread which has built up the business for us. And now we are expanding into a lot of other segments. For example, mining and tunneling equipment. It could be port machines, agricultural machines. So there is a number of machines which are, from a fire point of view, it could be very hazardous if they, ignite. And there we are. So and also, as we are here to discuss around airports and ground support equipment. We have seen a lot of devastating fires.
Yes, indeed.
Both lately and a couple of years ago. So we saw a growing interest, let's say 5-6 years ago, for our system, for these kind of equipment. And from that on, it has developed.
No, very good. And like you said, the recent flurry of photographs, that's on social media, especially with the GPUs and also even the tugs, which has then had damage to the aircraft itself. I mean, the amount of money, that can be the downside of one of these incidents is incredible.
Yes, it is. We have seen, fires which have destroyed full planes, and fortunately, there have been no lives at risk at those fires, but huge costs involved with it. But as we say with our system, our first priority is always to save lives, and the second is, of course, to save the equipment and everything around it.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. I'm going to come to that in a minute, because when people have a picture of a fire in their mind and then it's been put out, they think of devastation and lots of damage. But your product is pretty unique in as much as it doesn't leave, a lot of damage behind, which I'll have a chat with Nicholas about, if that's okay, Lars. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Well done, my friend. I'll be back to you shortly. So, Nicholas, GSE. Okay, so obviously there's huge amounts of equipment around at the moment. There's lots of talks of electrification and how things should change, but nevertheless, there's still going to be so much of traditional equipment that's around. And when you look at how old that's getting now and the competition at many airports, you've got different organizations with their own fleets. Some would say there's too much equipment, but nonetheless, to service it correctly and make sure it's safe, you've got to deal with a lot of old equipment.
Absolutely. And as you say, the key part of having fire safety is the service of the machine. If you can have an old machine, but if it's serviced correctly, it can be well safely than a new machine that hasn't been serviced. But of course, where you have an old machine, you have wear down of hydraulic hoses or component in general, who of course causes a great risk.
Yeah.
And working in these kind of areas where they work, the smallest incident can cause huge accidents. When you have your tug catching on fire, you can take a plane with you, or your passenger bus stopping at the wrong place and it stops the entire airport. So even if you can have just these small accidents, it can have this huge effect. And we see if just one airport stops, that's going to show up on a lot of other airports as well.
Exactly. And like you said, the impact and the effect on the brand as well, and customer perception, it all rolls in. Do you find now that companies are after COVID and seeing some of the incidents that are happening, and unfortunately with a lot of shortfalls and drop-offs and attrition levels, people aren't being trained as well, and there isn't enough people, and the whole industry is being put under pressure. So are you finding that people are a little bit more aware of risk, and they're looking more into all this preventive capability?
I would definitely say so. Yeah, we clearly see, and I see for year, and I haven't been with Fogmaker for that long, only since 2020. But even in that time, you can clearly see how much more focus is being put into safety.
Yeah.
Both for safety for the brand, for the humans involved, for the equipment involved. But safety is important, and it's something we can see that companies or our customers and everyone's customers are putting more energy into, more money into, to make sure that you have a safe. Because as you said earlier, with social media, if you have an incident, your brand is going to be out all over the world in a second.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's amazing now, and people have to be a lot more focused on it. Now, coming back to yourself, Lars, I would imagine that your growth percentages have gone up substantially in the last few years.
Yes.
As a result of what we've spoken about, but also as a result of need and necessity in some cases, because I know some airports are becoming a lot more stricter on how people look after their equipment.
What we have seen lately, I mean, if we look at Fogmaker as a whole business, we have had around 25% per year in growth the last 2-3 years.
Yeah.
And of course, we were quite affected by COVID. And if we look at airports, for example, it was devastating for the business. We had a huge interest before COVID, and then it totally died.
Yeah.
And now we can really see that the cash flow is coming back and the business is growing again. As we are delivering to a couple of OEMs producing tugs or tow trucks, we can really see that it is increasing now, and also we get more questions from the airports.
Yeah, so, which is good, isn't it? Because if the awareness goes up, there's nothing worse than would have, could have, should have, and there's an awful lot of that around at the moment, which is terrible.
Yes.
Now, coming to the name Fogmaker, all right. There's a little clue in the effect of what your equipment does. Do you want to just give us a little brief as to how that came about?
Yeah. I mean, Fogmaker, we are very special because there are not many fire suppression companies who use, as we say, water-based mist, which could be seen as fog. And we work with high pressure, and how to say, we split the drops or the water into very, very fine atomized droplets, atomized droplets, which really, how do you say, works well in both cooling and, of course, when they evaporate, they expand. And when they expand within a enclosed compartment, it pushes out the oxygen. So you both have a cooling effect and you have a choking effect on the fire. And that's what makes it so efficient. There are a lot of other methods to do fire suppression. You can use powder, for example.
Yeah.
And powder is good. It's cheap, but the problem is it doesn't take away the heat.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't take away the heat, it will mean that it will have reignition. And if the fire safety guys at the airport haven't been able to get to the point where the fire have started in time, you will probably have a disaster. So we like to say that this kind of high pressure water-based mist is the best way, as we take out the heat, there couldn't be a fire after that.
Okay,
The cooling is really important.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, Nicholas, if we can just come back to a couple of questions before we show a video. So, Salem, if you can just get ready with the video that we're gonna put in. But Nicholas, one of the things that I wanted to ask you, and again, we spoke about it earlier, when people think of a fire, they think of the devastation and the damage and everything else that comes afterwards.
Yeah.
But this causes no damage or impact to the engine or the machine or the battery section or whatever.
No, it doesn't. Since it's such we say light water mist, it's something that basically just evaporates in air, especially with heat, as it turns into steam when the water encounters heat. And there is no, even as Lars said earlier, it's a high pressure system, but that is inside the container, inside the pipes. When it comes out of the nozzles, there's no pressure there. You can hold your hand in front of it and you're totally fine. So there's no power that can destroy anything. And also, as it is water-based, it's just a liquid. What's left afterwards the system has gone off is basically a water-based with, of course, the few additives we use to be more efficient. But it's a small blanket over there that you can take off with a water hose. Okay,
right. Got so when it dries off, there's a little film of the additives that you've got.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So if you say you have a pool fire, you have some diesel leaking out that has been managed to collect in some place. Our liquid lays like a blanket on top of it. So even if you have heat coming out, it's not supposed to reignite.
Okay, very good, very good. Right, I think now's a good time to put the video on. So, Salem, if you can just cut and splice that in now, we'd really appreciate it. So, I think, gents, I mean, you can see there how quickly it puts it out. The video was a little bit hesitant there. Obviously, that's to do with the internet, but it shows how effective it is. What sort of a container was that you were using?
In this case, we had a 4-liter container, but we only use around 2 deciliters to do this. So this is not a completely normal system. It's a show-off system that we just operate by hand.
Yeah. Okay.
So we show, and I would say 2 to 3 deciliters for taking this out. And this is a pool fire with 4 pools of diesel and petrol mix, as well as a diesel spray going off inside the trailer. The trailer has a size of just under 2 cubic meters. So it's clear to see how efficient the water evaporates when it hits the heat, pushes out the steam, pushes out the air, chokes the air, and you see all the smoke being created. So if we do the math, 1 liter of our suppressant, when it hits the fire, turns into 1,700 liters of steam. So it absolutely fills up the area. So even if your nozzle doesn't hit exactly what's on fire, the heat with the eruption causes the entire area to flood with the steam, which chokes, cools, and hopefully takes out the fire.
No, that's blimey, that expands quite a lot, huh?
Yeah, very much so.
That's incredible. Let me ask you another thing now. I mean, have you done any tests now on any of the aircraft containers?
From aircraft containers, you mean the ones you use for shipping inside?
Inside, the ULDs that go inside the aircraft. Have you looked at anything that could happen inside the containers?
I think Lars is better to answer this, so I'll leave it over to you, Lars.
We have done quite a lot of containers, but not those who are intended to be freighted on airplanes. But it could be definitely a possibility in the future. What is a little bit different that if you're on the plane, you have totally different regulations, and so it's a little bit more, I would say, delicate, and you need special certificates to be able to have your system on the plane.
No, exactly. No, I was just curious whether or not you did any testing because, some of the other options like, fire blankets and various other areas that have been, been investigated. There's a lot of interest in how that could be bettered. Now, coming back again, another thing that I'd like to ask you, Nicholas, is as you grow up, everybody says to you, "Oh, don't ever put water with electricity," and there's always a big panic, and everybody tells you that. But with the amount of electrification that's going on now, and you've got similar problems, people talking about lithium batteries and whether they're second life, third life, and all sorts. How does that offer? Does it offer an opportunity, or is it a problem?
I would say it offers a big opportunity for us. Some people say, when you, as you said, water and electricity don't mix, and that's a good thing to learn when you're a child. Don't take your hairdryer into the tub with you. But as we use water mist, that's non-conductive, as all of the particles are separated.
Right.
So you can be in a high voltage area, as say a bus or a tug or whatever, where you use, or an EV today. And if the system goes on and you have a short circuit somewhere that is, of course, electrifying on touch, it's safe. So basically, it comes down to it. Yeah, water mist is not conductive.
It's weird one, isn't it? I was just thinking if my wife came into the bathroom while I was in the shower of the bath, and it just had mist, and she said, "Don't worry, I'm just going to throw this. I'm not sure whether I'd be comfortable." So it's one of those things that you challenge your own mind, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you, of course, this is something we come across all the time with EVs. That's the first time no one's thinking I'm going to go near it with water, but that's the thing. Water and water mist is completely different. I can do the thing where, if you put a pot on the stove at home and have oil in it, it catches fire. The last thing you should do is throw water on it, because you get the effect where it throws out. Water mist will be totally fine because you don't enclose the air underneath, so you don't get an exploding effect. It's the same thing that, as it is a it's a mist. I am blanking on the word. Yeah, things can move through it, so it is perfectly safe to be around. And so for oil, for EVs especially today. But so of course it's a challenge for us to show this and to explain it to customers and people in general who are interested. But we also see people are learning from what we have to say, and we do more and more EV vehicles in both on tugs for airports. We do a lot of buses, wheel loaders, so more and more EV.
Yeah, it's amazing, though, isn't it? It's just getting through that mind barrier and people being concerned. But the more options and the cleaner, obviously, the better. Right, gents, we're going to have another video that's going to come on at the end of the podcast, which is fine. But Lars, is there anything you'd like to finish with? That's challenges or opportunities, or a message that you want to put out to the industry, as to why they should be considering such an investment, which, to be fair, when you look at the end cost, if something goes wrong, it would be a wise decision to be looking at it ahead of time.
Yeah, I would put it like this: it's a very, very cheap insurance, and we normally say that the price for a system is around 1% of the machine value, and if you, for adding 1%, can avoid hundreds of millions of euros in costs, then of course you should do it. So I think that's a quite good sales pitch on this. I would like to add also one thing, because Niklas was speaking about electric vehicles, that everybody thinks that electric vehicles are, going into fire due to the batteries. But research lately have shown that around 60% of the fires in electric vehicles are not originating from the battery. It's from the components around. So batteries are really safe, I would say, but they could be dangerous when you charge them, but not when you, use them in the normal way that they are supposed to be used.
Yeah, and that percentage gives even more concern, because if it's triggered from the components, then people are worried about what happens from the fire on the batteries then thereafter.
Yes, exactly. If it spreads to the battery, then it's devastating.
Add to that, what I can say, how we work with EVs is, of course, we do cooling of the batteries externally, which we know if you do have a thermic runaway, if you come to that point, it slows it down and buys time for evacuation. But what we focus mostly on is to protect the area around it. You have a bunch of other high voltage components, or as for the pushbacks, all the hydraulics. If you have a fire around it, we do not want that fire to spread to the batteries.
Exactly.
Yes, with the 60% Lars said, and for the rest of the 40% sounds quite a lot. But in those 40%, most of those fires are also started by the battery actually having some outer factor to it.
Yes.
Say a crash or fire close to it, which causes then the thermal runaway or the short circuit inside the battery. So yeah, batteries themselves, and I mean, of course, the battery manufacturers put a lot of money in making sure their batteries are safe.
Yeah, exactly. But it's amazing, you know, when you look at the whole picture, you know, it's like anything. If you look at it from a distance, it looks okay. And then when you get up close, you see a lot more detail.
Absolutely.
And I think, you know, that's what people need to do here. So, gents, well done. Everything that helps make our industry, wonderful industry, safer is a bonus, and you know, and it's well received. So well done for what you're doing, and
Thank you.
Good luck with your percentage increase every year seems to be pretty healthy, Lars, which is why, you know, I'm pretty sure you're smiling most weekends.
Yeah, I try to.
Huh? Good man. All right. Well, listen, thanks very much, guys. And again, it's brought back fond memories of my time in Sweden. And I hope to speak to you again soon. And we'll keep in touch. And thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us. It was our pleasure.
At Fogmaker, we create peace of mind. In over 70 countries, thousands of applications, and for millions of people, our fire suppression systems make a life-saving difference. Based on high-pressure water-based mist, our technology is the ideal solution for vehicles, engine compartments, and confined spaces. It suppresses a fire in its early stages and prevents it from reigniting by 3 mechanisms of action: by cooling heat, displacing oxygen, and smothering the fuel. Our system is active 24/7 and offers both outstanding efficiency and a low total cost of ownership. Fogmaker is the result of nearly 3 decades of innovation, development, and testing at our Swedish facilities. Through an international network of distributors, we collaborate closely with our clients to ensure the most efficient, tailor-made solutions in a wide range of business segments. With expertise, commitment, and integrity, we strive to always be the first choice for our clients. Our products and services may change over time, but our values will remain the same. Safety is always our top priority.